that your son?
Yeah, do you hear him?
I do. I love it though.
My son just got home from school, so hopefully he'll give me 45 minutes
Nice.
before running down here. Oh, here come all the dogs. It's a busy household.
Yeah, it makes it lively.
That's right. There's never a dull moment here.
Alrighty. All right, well, we're gonna get started. I have to end that. All right, welcome everybody. We have Hutchinson here again for our Revitalization Series, which has been great. This is 4-part series, so this is the last webinar of this series, and we're excited to have Carol on again. She's a partner at Hutchinson Consulting. She's background in public relations, moved into marketing, and has the ability to understand the perception of a brand in the marketplace. And as she's used this unique vision of her background to help develop and deploy innovative marketing plans for some of the most successful brands in the industry. So we are super excited to have her on here because you're going to be talking about launching the new you. We kind of went through the whole series about what to do now that we've had COVID, and we're trying to use this time to kind of like rethink how we want to change our branding, not fully, but a little bit to tweak it to kind of come out with a fresher you. So here she is, Carol. She's going to talk about rebooting and launching new you. You can take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for that introduction. And I gave a big warning that I have 3 dogs and a 10-year-old who may be running through the house. So I hope that that you guys can bear with me if that happens. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So here we go. So this 4th part of the webinar is really the reboot. So now we've already talked a little bit about new programming, perhaps a fresh perspective on your marketing or your brand, which is was the 2nd one that I did. And then Michael, our 3rd partner, he talked a little bit about the human resources and making sure that you have the right people in the right places. And now I'm talking a little bit more about, even more technical and a little bit more about your sales effort as you kind of reboot. Who is Hutchinson? We've been in business for over 30 years, and we specialize in wellness and hospitality. We have 3 main areas that we offer: executive recruiting, which Michael heads up, operations and business development consulting, which Christine manages, and then marketing support services, which really falls under my background. I've been in the marketing world, I guess, over 25 years, and started on site at various luxury brands, hotels and resorts, including Miraval, and really kind of know both sides of the story now, being on the operations side and then also now from a consulting perspective. The industries that Hutchinson serve include spas, wellness companies. We're in senior living communities now, resorts and wellness retreats. And I mentioned that there's 3 partners, and I'm Carol, so I am the marketing person. And we got together with the Green Spa Network and teamed up to try to put together a very practical series for you, addressing these important topics of programming, marketing, hiring, and today I'm going to talk a little bit more about training. Some topics that we're going to cover is why focus on your front line, the understanding the art, I call it an art, of upselling, and how to arm your reservation staff or your frontline staff with the right tools to convert. And I always say that I feel like we need to refocus or focus some effort on what I call the front line in our businesses. A lot of people might have a stunning property, a beautiful website, state-of-the-art treatments, results-driven products, strong marketing and advertising messaging. And this tends to be what companies, I feel, really focus their money and time on. And I think what's often missed is what I call the forgotten front line. I feel like they're the true gatekeepers of your spa, your products, your retreats, your businesses. And again, I often feel like they're kind of the last to get any training or any notice. And really, I think it's where you should start. And when I do training, so one of the things that I do besides the marketing piece and branding and all of that is I take that and I have incorporated it into some sales training. And I'm going to share some of those tips with you today that hopefully you can take back with your team. And why is it even more important now to kind of focus on your front line? Because honestly, right now, they're the ones who are going to be able to build trust with your customers. They're going to be talking to your customers before they even set foot in your businesses, in your spas, buy your products. And they're the ones who are also going to be able to set you apart from the competition. And they're the ones who are going to bring you even more revenue with the right tools and the right training, which is super important. And a lot of people say, okay, well, who is my front line? A recent study showed that people are now spending about 40% of their time at work engaging in non-sales selling, persuading, influencing, and convincing others. While there might not be obvious frontline team members, we are all in sales now, any one of us who talk to guests. And how do you kind of talk to guests and what does that mean? And I think, you know, when I say we're all in sales, what is the technique that we use? And one of the big ones is cross-selling or upselling. So what is cross-selling? Cross-selling is the action or practice of selling an additional product or service to an existing customer. For example, a front desk person might try to upgrade a room. A spa therapist might try to add another treatment or products. A shuttle driver from the airport might be talking about activities or dining recommendations. And a server might be introducing a favorite dish or recommend a new cocktail. So these are all different ways that cross-selling can be used with your frontline. But why do we do it? There's a lot of benefits to cross-selling. They include that you get richer guest data for future personalization, so you get to know your guest. Greater utilization of amenities or buying things. A higher profitability because customers are going to be spending more. And increased customer satisfaction and loyalty because they're going to be happy that they got what they wanted. So it's a win-win for the customer and for the company. I think that there's a lot of barriers when we do training. This is kind of what I focus on. What are the barriers of cross-selling? So some have never experienced what they're selling. They might perceive the cost to be too high for a guest, especially if you're selling a high ticket hotel room or resort room or even spa treatment. If they hadn't done it, then it might be perceived too high. But the biggest is they're really unsure how to engage the guest. And that's one of the things I also focus on. I think, how do you really engage with your guest? So we're going to talk about each of the barriers really quickly. And this is something that I would review through my sales training, but it's something that you can do yourselves. The first one is, I'm so surprised when I go into properties and meet with the reservations agent or the front desk agents or the spa therapist, that they've never even experienced anything within their spa, their resort, their food. So ensure that they get to experience at least one thing a quarter, a treatment, a dinner, an activity, something they can reference. So they know what they're talking about. And also, if you're in management, follow up with them about their experience so that they get that, they can build up that discussion point with you first before they share it with a guest. The second barrier is perceived cost. And I think this really requires a conversation to help the frontline staff member or team member understand that most of the time people who are calling or coming to experience something, they can afford to do it. So, but they really want to understand the value. And that's really what we try to teach through our training. And the third barrier is how to, guests are really, again, our frontline members sometimes are really unsure how to engage guests. And one way to do this is to build guest loyalty through conversation. Conversations help us understand and connect with others. And I think one of the issues with this is, you know, what is the best way to start a conversation? A lot of times people might be shy, or, you know, I've done some work in Hawaii where culturally it's, you know, they don't feel comfortable approaching guests. So what's the best way to start a conversation, especially, you know, with somebody you just met or you don't know, as it relates to your job? And this is really where the art of selling comes in, you know, using these, what I call discovery questions, open-ended questions. They really allow guests to include more information and feelings and attitudes. And this helps you really continue that conversation to find out, you know, what it is that they need. For example, if you're a reservation agent, you might say, what do you like to do when you travel? What would you like to experience? An example for a spa therapist means, you know, what are some of your goals for the session? Kind of building that rapport with those open-ended questions. It's also important to pay attention, and we spend on this in training too, is how do you communicate? You know, use powerful and enthusiastic expressions. Share what you know about the hotel or the product or the spa. Remember, you're the expert. And that's really where that experiencing at least one thing a quarter comes in. They can always go back into their memory and share what they know or what they like, their recommendation. And then speak and act with confidence, because remember, they're calling you or they're turning to you. And you're the expert in their eyes. So speak and act with confidence. And just to go in a little bit deeper, and I won't, you know, this is kind of touching base a little bit on what I do for training and some of the exercises we do, but some quick tips. You know, using powerful and enthusiastic expressions, what does that mean? I highly recommend you try our new scrub. It really makes your skin feel amazing. My favorite experience is the horseback riding. I really enjoy it because I get to see a part of the resort you don't normally see. Based on what you just told me through these discovery questions, I think you would really love to try this new cocktail. So using these kinds of expressions and training your staff to kind of use these, and again, using that experience that you might have had and incorporating those into this is the best way to kind of use powerful and enthusiastic expressions. And then share what you know about the hotel, the spa treatment, the product. Stick to things you know or have tried to sound more authentic. Again, that goes back to trying or experiencing the products, the spa services, the food, and use it in your own words, not the marketing spiel. Nobody wants to hear from a brochure. They want to hear it be really authentic to how you feel about it. And adapt to their needs. Remember those discovery questions. What are they looking to accomplish? Well, share with them what's going to benefit based on what you know. So tying it back in. That's really the art of selling. And then speak and act with confidence using positive body language, smile, listen with your eyes and ears. I think those are all important things. And one of the things when you talk about sales training or any type of sales is really understanding, reading the buyer. So a buyer signal is a reaction, something the guest says or does, which tells us how he feels about our suggestion. So positive things might be, leaning forward or smiling, asking another question to continue the conversation. A negative one might be no, or hold on, or leans away, or shakes their head. And don't take that personal. It just means that they're not in the right mind frame to kind of make a decision or to be approached to continue the conversation. And other tools when I go into resorts or into call centers or spas, I really talk about making sure that you have the right staff level. It surprises me every time that I visit a busy call center that they're not willing to stretch to one more person or a front desk who's very busy during certain hours, because you're leaving money on the table when you don't answer those calls. And then not just having the right staff level, but also making sure you have the right members, in the right position. Not everybody has the ability to be a salesperson. And in those frontline positions, having that extra personality profile is critical. And we use, Hutchinson uses the predictive index, which is a very quick assessment to define, okay, this person is a great salesperson and this is how they sell. And that way, training that I do or anybody on your staff does can be modeled after that. And another thing that I use is really honing in on a great incentive program. So building an incentive program that's easy to understand and track. Because if you have the right people in the right place and they're sales focused, having an incentive program is going to really help drive that business. And then when you do all of these things, you need to inspect what you expect. So do shop calls, go in and see what they're doing, have friends and family pay a service, really see if they're utilizing the tools and the training that's been provided. I'm going to talk a little bit about a case study from a training case study. And this really, I didn't start off in doing sales training. I'm a marketing professional. I started off actually in public relations and moved into marketing. And then before I started my own company and joined Hutchinson, I was at Miraval. And I was in charge of getting the phones to ring. And really, I was the VP of marketing, and we had a large call center. I think we had 14 members. And I remember I spent probably 6 months really building a strong marketing campaign, and the phones were going crazy finally. And we still didn't have a lot of business on the books, and we couldn't figure out what was happening. And I stood in the call center and I noticed that the call center agents were really not engaged. they were not selling the experience. They were focused on, here's the price you have to pay, and it's $20,000. Do you want to come for a week? Not really selling what they would get for that. And so I remember talking to my now partner, Michael Tompkins. So he was my boss. And I said to him, I can get the phones to ring, but if they're not answering, that's a problem. Or if they're not able to convert, that's a problem. And he said, okay, fine, you're now over reservations. So great. So I took over the reservation side, and I really looked at it from a marketing perspective, that every person who called was a potential, was a potential client of ours, and how could we sell to them versus just taking an order. I think a lot of people hear that, you're selling versus taking an order. And so I developed my own program of how to do that. And since then, I've kind of adapted that and have done some training at various resorts and wellness retreats and spas around the country. And this is a result of one case study. So this one was an exclusive resort in Hawaii. They reopened in January of 2016. They had done extensive renovations on the property and added a lot of new recreational offerings. At the same time, they closed their reservation office. They hired all new agents and they moved them off property. And although the property was like new and positive, there was a ton of PR about it, and the relaunch had been generated, the conversion rate was extremely low at 19%. So I started to work with the team. I visited the property to understand, okay, this is where the marketing piece of what I do comes in. What is unique about this property? Because let's face it, in Hawaii, there's a ton of competition. I evaluated each agent. We used the PI test. I identified the top sales agents, and I created a perfect profile. So if they hire any more, they can kind of go around that. And then I looked at their call flow or their call script, and I designed it in a way that I did at Mirabal. And I created a new incentive program, and I trained each agent with this new, why are we selling? How are we selling? And here's your new call flow. So we did a lot of on-site training and role playing. I did evaluations and continued with that. And the results have been tremendous. So prior to the start of training, the call conversion was 19%. Over a 2-month period, it moved to 39. And after continuing in training, the new conversion rate is actually now over 50. So that is a lot of revenue. So again, training your frontline staff is a very good way. You're going to see revenue. You're going to see a good return on your revenue or your investment. It's not as complicated as trying to track advertising. So, as a business owner, that's where I think money needs to be spent on really, cultivating your frontline staff. And that's the purpose. And even more so now with the pandemic, with competition being as steep, with people having fears about traveling or visiting spas, it's even more important to, kind of train them. And that is kind of where I'm leaving off. And I'm really open to any questions anybody might have.
Thank you so much, Carol. That was like so much good information too, that I don't think we've like really talked about on any of our webinars so far. It's really like, yeah. I mean, I was sitting there visualizing when, because I've never been on the other side of the desk at a hotel or a spa, that just the kind of conversations that take place when I'm walking out of a massage, and if they ask me to buy another product, how that really goes. And there's a lot of times I don't. So, but I was thinking too, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I was going back to when you were talking about communicating the message, and when you use words like, I highly recommend this product, or I think you'd be so great at that. It made me think of just how I go by buying stuff nowadays is so true. Like I go to reviews on Amazon. If something doesn't have a ton of reviews, I'm probably not going to buy it. You know, maybe I'm not going to be the risk taker to buy the product that only has like 2 reviews, you know, it might take me a while. Exactly. Or you review or you just see what other people have said about the product and you go based on the consumer reviews. So, and I think that when we're in person with that massage therapist, you know, it's not, you see them as a person and less than like selling the product. When they talk about what they personally like, I don't know, you feel more of a connection. So
yeah, and that's why I really call it the art of upselling, because
yeah,
it shouldn't appear to be selling. It should be very genuine. It should be something that appears natural to you. That's why it's so imperative that they actually get to experience.
No,
There's my dog.
I love it.
They actually get to experience something so that they can authentically talk about it.
Yeah.
And how excited if you're, you know, sharing something that you love with a friend. Like I just shared this. I have amazing new Keurig type of coffee I love. It's not a Keurig brand coffee. It's a new kind that fits in my Keurig. And I've already sold it to 2 people. I didn't mean to, but I was so excited about it. Exactly. I mean, I get excited about coffee. I'm not going to lie. And, you know, I feel like that's something that, you know, that's important. So it just comes across as authentic and they believe you and then they try it, you know?
Yeah, that's totally right. And then I was thinking too, when you're talking about reading their signals and body language, I feel like that's like innate in some people too, but if it's not, like if they are backing away or you're not really getting a response, do you kind of just let it go? Do you push a little more, maybe in a different way? How would you approach that? Philippe is saying hi. Hi, Philippe.
I know, I just saw that. I just saw that. Hi, Philippe. Can you ask me the question again? I'm sorry. I was saying hi to Philippe.
Just like when you were talking about the negative or positive body language, and what do you do when they do have a negative body language or they're not kind of engaged with you?
Right. So, you know, the first thing I do, and I'm going to just talk from experience, from a personal experience or through one of my training, you know, it was so great training this, being able to go into the call center and train at this resort in Hawaii, that I actually went in and trained the whole front line. I went in and trained the servers, the pool people, the people running the activities, the front desk agents. And again, this was a culture where they felt very uncomfortable approaching people. And what I told them was, listen, if you flew thousands of miles to come to a resort and you were sitting by the pool and you didn't realize, you know, you only have 4 days there or 5 days there, and you didn't realize all the great activities, you know, from horseback riding to sailing to scuba diving to shooting to spa treatments, and nobody told you about them, you would be doing a disservice, you know, to not say something. That's kind of the approach that I use. And I try to say, don't take it personally, because you don't know where somebody is in that space. They could have just got off a phone call with somebody, they have work on their mind, or they're late for a meeting. So the cues, you know, if you're saying, you know, I noticed that you played golf today. We have a terrific spa treatment that really helps your shoulders. And the person says, you know, I don't have time with that. Just be very gracious about it. At least you've offered it, and just say, great. Okay, if there's anything I can help you with in the future, that's great. And you know, these things they don't take away from things like the Forbes standards and things like that. That's also very much part of training that you should do. What I bring to the table is a more focused on kind of the sales and the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. I think you also mentioned too, you just said, I noticed your shoulder or something like that. It's like, I think people like when you talk about them too. So it's kind of like more noticing them and talking more about them. Seems like the right way to go.
Yeah.
And Philippe asked, I think his question cut off, but he was saying, many people book online ahead of time. Any tips on how to design your booking system to upsell using technology like the live chat, etc.?
Yeah, live chat is great, but I will recommend, like, if you only if you have people to actually service it, right? There's nothing worse than being like, okay, I'm going to go on live chat and be able to communicate with somebody and they're not there. So don't offer that service if it's not there. What I say, there's definitely technology where you can say, would you like to add on this, or this? So that's one way you can have add-ons. The other thing is make it part of your menu that, you know, is very easy from a marketing perspective. You know, that's a great thing. So having things that they can just add on for a simple amount. And then when they're there, let's say they're having a spa treatment, that's where the conversation comes in. I noticed you told me that you were traveling a lot and your face feels really dry. How about we do an extra mask for you that I highly recommend. It's very moisturizing and it's going to help you. See how I use that highly recommend? And I listened to their problem and I provided them with a solution. So there is technology. Unfortunately, you know, if you don't talk to somebody, if you're not able to talk with somebody, then you have less of an opportunity to upsell. But there's definitely something to be said for doing it on site and making sure that your website is set up to offer as much as possible.
Wonderful.
Hi, Joanne.
Great.
Hello.
Joanna's here.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I had volunteering at my kids' school, so thank you
I know what that's like. Okay. Good for you.
Good to see you too. Thanks for doing this for us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Are there more questions from folks?
Anybody else?
All right. All right. Well, do you have more to share, Carol? Or another thing you'd like to discuss?
I don't think so. I'm just, you know, I'm really glad that we were able to kind of hopefully provide kind of a 360 revitalization plan for you. And
Yes.
you know, we're all here to help each other through this crazy time. And hopefully there's some good tidbits that you can gather from this.
Yes, yes. And I do, I mean, I think that, and I'm sure you covered this already, but the marketing piece of this is so critically important, you know, so that we're communicating that people feel safe and nurtured and like they can come, and also that if there are challenges, that's also communicated immediately so people don't feel fearful.
That's exactly right. And I did speak about that. That's why it's especially important now to kind of train your front line so they're able to, you know, they're all on the same page. They know what you're providing. They know what you're doing. And they're all aware of it. So when those questions will happen, that you're able to respond in a unified manner.
Yeah. And are you suggesting that folks do like what kind of trainings are you suggesting or recommending? Are you doing like a daily training, like an update every day, or are you doing like weekly trainings? Because things are changing so quickly.
Mm-hmm. I think, you know, the training that I talk about is really, you know, kind of a sales training. So that can be done at any time. What's important right now from a property perspective or from an organization perspective, I think being in touch more often than not. So I think having daily lineups and being able to communicate, hey, these are the 5 things that's changed. I know the property I work with in Hawaii, things are changing daily. I mean, you know, we're closed, we're open, we're closed, we're open. So it's just as important to communicate to your staff because they're going to be talking to, you know, to the customers.
And it's so hard with all of the, I mean, the rates of spread and the different states' rules and the entry rules. I just don't know how places are able to keep up with all of that information without having some sort of daily meeting.
Yeah, daily meeting. And then, you know, usually, you know, and from a marketing perspective, you don't normally put, hey, these are our safety tips on the front of your website. But I highly recommend that there is a easy to, you know, updated, easy updated page that you click to. You know, these are the safety protocols that we're doing. These are the latest updates from the property. I think that's, you know, super important right now.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think so too. I think so too. I think it's some of the challenges that all of our collective clients, supporters, and members are having, and I think it's good for us to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, pleasure to host you again, and also to
Thank
have
you.
Hutchinson, who is a wonderful partner of GSN's. And, you know, we need to, I hope you guys plugged the job board already.
We do have a wonderful job board. I did not plug it, but thank
Okay.
you for doing that.
So if you need help, or if you are looking for a job, don't forget to go to the GSN Planet website and look for the job board and see what's available, or send through your resume, or let us know if you need any support with that. So
Absolutely.
pleasure. All right.
Great.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having me.
You are welcome, and we will talk soon.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carol.
Take care.